Okay, got it.
There we go.
Got it. Okay.
Nancy, thank you for taking care of us tonight.
My joy to do it, really. So any time you cannot hear me, just let me know. I kind of have a gravelly voice, so I'll try to speak loudly and clearly. And we will start in a comfortable seated posture, whatever that is for you. And just spending a moment to feel settled in Sukhasana or Padmasana. Maybe lowering the gaze, closing the eyes. And utilizing the breath to move deep in the heart, that quiet space. Allowing the exhale to draw out tension, be it physical, emotional, spiritual. And the inhalation nourishes us, replenishes us, and fills the body with prana. Connect the palms together in front of the heart. And allow yourself to form a sankalpa or intention. And if you choose, as we move through the practice in these deep, long holds, you can come back to your intention and let it fill the mind as a mantra. Gently opening the eyes, extending the legs out straight for caterpillar pose. Some of us are more familiar, Paschimottanasana. Begin to yield and fold into this. Always taking your time to reach that edge, because the edge will change as you sustain the hold. Connect with the breath. And because I know everyone present here is a yogi, I'll use a lot of silence rather than a lot of chatter. maintaining your shape. We're about halfway through the hold, so you might begin to feel the body yield and want to move a little deeper. Maintaining your shape, we'll enter the last 3 breaths here. Once again, moving as deeply as possible for ourselves. And slowly and gently lifting out. Maybe just leaning back for a moment as a counter pose. Take a breath or two. And entering into butterfly pose, or better known as Baddha Konasana. You can do this reclining if you rather, with the arms wide open, or seated with a fold. So it's nice for the body to become very grounded, especially this time of the year, this season. According to yoga, we need more grounding in our practice. So a great way to create a more grounded feeling is to either have the head come to the ground or bring the ground to the head and have a sturdy surface. Remembering if there's discomfort and the knees are flying high, add a blanket or a block or a bolster. We first connect with the sensations of the body, and then we move to that other deeper level with our breath, our mantra.
Oh, okay.
Maintaining your posture, your shape. A little more than halfway through the hold. And I can thank my dogs for a little background music. And entering our last 3 deep breaths. Then gently exiting the pose, maybe closing the legs like a book, extending. And once again, just a gentle arch, counter stretch. Releasing the counter stretch for either half shoelace or full shoelace, starting with the right leg stacked on top. The left leg can be extended for half shoelace, or we can tuck back. If you're doing the half shoelace, maybe after like 2 minutes, you can switch to the other side. This also can be done lying down or on the wall. And again, that block or the bolster to create that sense of groundedness, increasing apana energy. You probably know the higher the hips are lifted, either with a blanket or a block, the more stacked the knees will become. And the choices here would be a lateral stretch to the right for as long as you like, or that forward fold. And just remembering, if the pressure on the knees become more than you want, stretch out for a moment and then come back to it. You're doing half shoelace, you can switch sides. Otherwise, maintain the hold if you're in full shoelace. Maintaining this shape as we move into our last 3 breaths. Carefully lifting out of the pose. For a twist to the right, we bring the knee to face skyward, the right knee, and we'll twist to the right, maybe for 5 or 10 breaths. Yogi's choice as a counter pose, either child or downward facing dog, again for 5 or 10 breaths. As you're ready, release this counter pose. And we'll come into our shoelace on the second side. So for those of you that did half shoelace, it'll be the same. This time you'll do it half the time on one side and then half the time on the other. And all the same instructions. If you like that lateral, the lateral would be to the left. These lateral movements are so beneficial this time of year because it's really supporting the lungs, and we can get a lot of congestion, as we know, as we move into, dare I say, winter. And again, remembering the option to fold forward with the groundedness of a block or not. So for those in half shoelace, you can transition to the other side. Otherwise, the rest of us will maintain this posture. Entering our last 3 breaths in this posture. And slowly lifting the body up, planting that left foot so we can do our twist towards the left, 5 or 10 breaths. And as you feel ready, moving into that down dog or child's pose for just a few breaths as well. This is our counter pose. And then again, as you're ready, come back onto the mat. Entering into saddle pose, which is hero's pose in Yin Yoga. So here, the knees are bent back and we're seated either on our blocks, our bolster, or whatever. Absolutely coming into a reclining position if that feels good for you. You can use your bolster, your blocks, or the floor. If this movement of the knees is too intense, we come onto our bellies in like a Sphinx pose, but we simply bend in the legs. And we can rest the head, or we can be in an upright position, but it gives basically the same feel, but not so much stress on the knees. And when you're using your tools, remembering not to be so much restorative as looking for that comfort in your discomfort. That being said, if you'd rather let it be a restorative posture, then absolutely do that. We're slowly working our way to the next few holds a little bit longer than the previous. I'll spend a little time talking in this posture. It's a beautiful book. I think Maureen introduced it to me during my teacher training. It's The Secret Power of Yoga by Nishila Joy Deve. It's her commentary on the Yoga Sutras. And I love her way of describing the yamas and the niyamas. And this is what she says. Ahimsa, rather than calling it non-harming, she defines it as reverence, love, and compassion for all. Satya, truthfulness, integrity. Asteya, traditionally called non-stealing, she calls generosity and honesty. Brahmacharya, moderation, she calls balance and moderation of our vital life force. Apragraha, non-attachment, she defines it as awareness of abundance and fulfillment. You're looking to deepen the pose, deepen it at this point as we're nearing the end of the hold. And our last 3 deep breaths. Cautiously, slowly begin to release. And gently extend the legs straight out in front. We all know in Yin, we feel very stiff in these transitions, and that's common. Maybe just wiggle the knees or shake the legs gently and slowly. And our counter pose can be caterpillar, that forward fold once again. So here, if you're looking to target the hamstrings, we'll hinge at the hips. But if you're looking to add a stretch to the spine, you can round and collapse.
Stay quiet.
Careful, Eric, don't come this way. Did you forget? We're about halfway through our hold. So make whatever adjustments are necessary. deep breaths here. And slowly release. We'll come into a back bend, either a bolster or block, a blanket rolled up like a jelly roll. You know the pose, move right into it, but we place it right about waist height because we want to increase the curve in the lower spine. And we bring ourselves, if you don't have a dog in the way, bring yourself down. And the legs can be straight, they can be Baddha Konasana, they can be bent and planted, but you want your support to accommodate the openness or lack of your spine. So some people can lay over a bolster and have this huge curve. Other people, we might just need a little towel rolled up. So feel what works for you, because remember, we're here for a while. And pontoon, that's what this is called, is a beautiful counter pose to all those forward folds. And this is a pretty intense pose, so we stay here just for a couple of minutes. The arms can be placed wherever they're comfortable. Some of us love to open up the heart. So let it, arms in a T, cactus, or overhead. And a beautiful place to tune into breathing diaphragmatically. And in all our poses, being aware of where we can soften the body so that the purpose and the intensity of the pose can truly be felt. Entering those final 3 breaths. And here we let the exhale escape through the mouth and maybe make it a little bit longer than your inhalation. When you've completed your 3 breaths, roll off to the side and press yourself up. Stretch the legs out forward. Bring the right palm into the left and the thumbs connect. And close the eyes. And spend a moment feeling into the sensation of the body and the practice. All that prana moving within us. And release. Entering into what we call Swan in Yin, which is Kapatanasana in Yang. So whatever your expression, move into it. If you're unsure, remembering we can do it seated. We'll start with the right leg. You can do this lying down on the back, or the more traditional expression, the right leg folded in front and the back leg extended. And for some of us, it doesn't feel so great. So we can kind of lean into the right hip, bend that left leg a little bit, position the front leg in the traditional, maybe support the knee, and begin to fold either straight forward or over to the side. Again, looking to protect the knee. If somebody needs me to repeat any of those, just let me know. For some of us, the most challenging pose here, it's also the longest held pose. And if you find while we're holding this for an extended period that the bony parts of the body are becoming sore, directly connected to the mat, then take a moment, come out, lay your blanket, and come back. So as you settle into this pose, I'll do another little reading from Nishila Joy Debe, The Secret Power of Yoga, Yoga Sutras. And I'll also say that we know yoga is a very ancient practice tradition. Nishila is the very first woman that's ever offered a commentary on the Yoga Sutras. And it's a very recent writing, like I think it was either 2012 or something like that. So that's pretty amazing. So here we look at the niyamas. Saucha, which is purity, Nishila says, through simplicity and continual refinement, Saucha, the body, thoughts, and emotions become clear reflections of the self within. Santosha, which is contentment, when at peace and content with oneself and others, supreme joy is celebrated. Tapas, heat and discipline, living life with zeal and sincerity. The purifying flame is ignited, revealing the inner light. Self-study, sacred study of the divine through scriptures, nature, and introspection guides us to to the Supreme Self. And the last niyama, devotion. Through wholehearted dedication, we become intoxicated with our interpretation of the divine. Taking those last 3 full breaths. You're on your belly, begin to lift. Begin to lift up. You're on your back, lift up. And yogi's choice, a downward facing dog for a few breaths, or wide windshield wipers, very slow motion. You can do both, or just our releasing pose. Excuse me. And once you feel the counter pose is sufficient, bring yourself into Swan on the second side, left leg forward. And even if you practiced one expression on the first side, you can change and do a different expression of the same pose on the second side. Sometimes our sides are, we know they're very different and need different types of attention. Always give yourself lots of time to create your shape. We are a little more than halfway. Encouraging yourself to surrender to such a deep pose. Yes, we are still in the pose. A little bit longer. Entering our 3 breaths here. Let the exhale be long. As you carefully begin to come out of the pose, it's a yogi's choice for down dog or windshield wipers or a combination of the two. And then when you feel satisfied that this counter stretch did what you needed, bring yourselves onto your backs and draw the knees into the chest. Twisted roots, lower the legs to the right, so it's a reclining twist. As we're moving towards the end of our practice, these last few poses will be held about 1 or 2 minutes. If you're looking to stretch into those intercostal muscles to bring release of congestion, you can take that left arm and reach it up behind you if it's comfortable. You can even take the right hand and place it on the rib cage and breathe deeply so that the rib cage lifts and presses into the palm on the in-breath, and then gently recedes on the out-breath. Yoga, all about the breath. Begin to release and roll onto the back and shift the hips so the spine is in line. We bring this twisted roots to the second side. And just remembering the choices, in this instance, the right arm can lift overhead if you like, and the left hand can embrace or be placed on the rib cage. And once again, releasing twisted roots and coming onto the back. Repositioning the hips to align the spine. And for a short period, we'll come into a gentle inversion. So obviously you can move to the wall or simply stay on your mat and lift those legs up. I always love to recommend placing a blanket or a bolster or a block underneath so that the hips become a little more elevated and the intensity of the inversion is gently increased. You can also practice what's called bear pose, and the legs are up, but they're bent, and the elbows and the arms are up, but they're bent. Maybe you can see me. Really trying to savor this shape, this posture, because it really is, in any practice, it's the icing on the cake. This is where any leftover stagnant energy can be Forced out. It's where all the chakras come in line or in balance. A lot of energy moves into the upper chakras, the sixth and seventh chakra, connecting us with all beings. Here you can choose to end your practice with the inversion or slowly bring yourself into Shavasana. In Hatha Yoga, we always recommend placing a thinly folded blanket under the head because when we're on that flat, hard surface without some cushioning, we create more tension in the neck and the shoulders. Settle in. And yin, I do have a little shorter Shavasana. One of the beautiful things about practicing any type of yoga, in yin and restorative, we're a little more aware of this, but in all yoga, we move through these layers of consciousness, the koshas. And I think in yin and restorative, we're just very, very conscious of this. We move from our very physical self to layer upon layer upon layer upon layer until we really meet ourselves at the core of who we are. And yoga tells us that we are what we're searching for. We are that. Allow yourself to rest in that truth for a little while. Gently begin to deepen your breath. And begin to come into those gentle movements that are familiar to you, that allow you to transition from your Shavasana onto the left side body for just a moment. As ready, bring yourself into your seat. And we press the palms together at the heart. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for loving yoga. Namaste.
Namaste.
We can unmute. I think Kathy might have control of that.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.
You can unmute individually if you'd like to. Nancy, thank you so much.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you.
Nancy,
Thank
that
you,
was
everybody.
just
Thank
perfect.
you. I just, I thank you, Maureen Miller, who is in the corner, who has been my teacher for a very long time. I'm going to cry.
Well, and let me cry because thank you, Kathy, who has been my teacher for a very long time. So we've got a lot going on here.
Yeah,
That was perfect.
So wonderful, wonderful to see everybody. Amelia in the corner. Thank you, everyone. I'll be
everyone.
back with you, and I don't remember when, November sometime.
November 6th, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
so hope to see you.
Thank you, everyone, for being around on a Friday evening. I love you. Nancy, I love you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, everyone. I love you. Namaste.
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 Thank you, Nancy. That was lovely.
So nice to see you again.
You too.
How do you say your name? Is it Mora?
The I is silent, so it's Mora.
Mora. Okay, Mora. All right.
Yeah.
I know I probably asked you that before, but
That's okay. I don't mind.
you get my age, you forget everything.
Yeah, I know.
I love you. Namaste.
Love you guys. Thank you so much. So good to see you too. Yeah,
Thank
Teresa.
you.
All
Bye,
right.
Nancy.